Hi, everybody, and welcome to Riding the Wave. I'm Mark Healey, the editor-in-chief of the Wave newspaper, Rockaway's newspaper since 1893. And today, we're going to talk with Pesach Osina. He is a candidate for the City Council's 31st District in the seat that was vacated when Donovan was elected Queensborough president. There's going to be a special election coming up on February 23rd, and Pesach is running against a very good field of candidates, and he's here to join us today. Welcome, Pesach. How are you, my friend?
Thank you, Mark, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come here and join you on the podcast, join you on Riding the Wave, for you to learn, and for the residents of the Rockaways and the whole entire district to learn a little bit more about my platform, the work I've done, and how we plan on move forward on uniting our communities.
It's funny. This is the first election that I'm covering since I joined the Wave in 2014, where I actually know and have worked with a lot of the candidates, yourself included. I think I've known you maybe the longest since I've been. In fact, you've worked for like several different people. I mean, I remember when you worked for Stringer, Scott Stringer, who's running for mayor. So I've for myself, I've interacted with you on a number of different levels and a number of different things. So I have the advantage of knowing what your background is. But today is really about giving you the opportunity to let folks know, why is Pesach Osina running for this city council seat?
So again, I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Pesach Osina. Just to tell you a little bit how I got to Rockaways. In 1999, I met my wife. We got married. She was a lifelong resident of the Rockaways. And she said, you know what? You're coming down to the Rockaways. This is where I live. This is where I'm not moving. You're coming down, and we're going to help better the community together. So, which is something that I've really gotten at a young age from my parents. My parents used their resources in their businesses and in their resources and their involvement in the community to help build and to guide, building communities. So after immediately following moving to Rockaways, I became active in a number of community organizations, including an active board member in the Jewish Community Council of the Rockaway Peninsula. This allowed me to organize diverse groups to affect and to address the issues that we all face, which is, feeding the hungry and allowing some joy to the children in the time of a holiday. Where, immediately following that, immediately following 9/11, the tragic events, I worked with our community organizations, I worked with the community board, and we established here in the Rockaways the first community emergency response team, the CERT program that encompassed the whole entire community board 14, to ensure that our community was prepared for any future adverse events that could happen. With that, I right away went to become an executive board member of the Regional Ready Rockaway program and worked with our local hospitals and health institutions to make sure their disaster plans were ready, and constantly focusing, taking that a level up and constantly focusing on the quality of life issues that are out here in the Rockaways. My civic engagement expanded, as you mentioned before, into numerous political campaigns out here in Rockaways, eventually working for the state, for the New York State Assembly, working for the New York City Council, and most recently, my role as Queensborough Director for the City Controller's Office. So my role in the Queensborough Director, in which, just to go on that for a second, I was responsible for a team of 4 that addressed the residents' concern throughout the entire borough, while allowing me to focus my resources and my time on the needs of the Rockaways in Southeast Queens. This role, where I was in charge, or I was running a team of 4 throughout the entire borough, allowed me to be an educator, an advocate, and a problem solver for all the communities, helping the constituents, helping all the diverse groups navigate the problems, navigate the complexities of government, and find favorable solutions. So again, the Rockaways is my home, District 31, and I'm raising my family here, and I want the best for every resident that's out here in the Rockaways and in District 41. And that's why I'm running to be the next council member, to represent the entire district. Where there's unity, there's strength, and that's the core of my campaign, is building a stronger community with the inclusion of all our voices. We cannot have we can't have any more choices without our voices.
That's a really good, you have to make a bumper sticker with that, Pesach. I need to ask you a question, okay? Because it's come up before, and you know, when I hear people say our community, sometimes it's almost as if you would think that when they say our community that they're talking about the peninsula, but I think sometimes when you go back and you see when they say our community, maybe they're only talking about a segment of the community. When you say our community, what do you mean? What are you trying? Because you've said it a couple of times now. Are you referring to when you say our community?
So I appreciate that question. And I think that, you know, as we look at Queens and we look at the Rockaways, you know, I know that we're very specific to Rockaways here. And you look at the Rockaways from, you know, the Nassau County border up until Breezy Point, every 4 blocks is another community. And what we need to do is we need to work to have inclusion of all those communities. The Rockaways essentially is our community, is one community. And we can't have it looked upon that every 4 blocks between Edgemere, between Harvard, between the 6 NYCHA developments that are here, between the Nordac, we can't look at them as every single one specific. You know, the one thing that I learned in the controller's office and, you know, working with the entire borough is every single community has really the same issues. And what we need to do, but every single community works on those issues differently. And every single community has best practices on those issues. And what we need to do is we need to create working groups. We need to get stakeholders from all the communities together and see what really works to resolve those issues and take the best practices from those issues to everybody and make those at the forefront. Why are we all inventing the wheel? We don't need to do it. We don't need to invent the wheel. If we all work together and have a united voice, make the Rockaways ours again, then we will be able to be a much stronger community.
You know, I don't remember the year, but you did run for city council once before, right? Didn't you run against Donovan Richards? Was it in the primary that you
So
ran?
I ran in the last special election against Donovan Richards, which was the 2013.
2013, right? I couldn't remember if it was 2012 or 2013. So when you ran against Donovan, you know, what was that experience like? You know, how did you feel that you did? I know that you did pretty well. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. What did that experience of running against Donovan that time give you for this time around, and why, was there something that happened during that campaign that made you think, hey, you know what, this time I have a good shot?
So I appreciate the question. I look at a lot of similarities between 2013 and now in the way the Rockaway is. 2013 was immediately following Sandy, when the Rockaway was struggling, right? We're an extremely, right? You know, I think it was 90% of the Rockaways was inundated with floodwater. We have now Rockaways was the most hit place, right? With the zip code is the second to most hit zip code regarding COVID fatalities and regarding COVID issues around there. There's a lot of similarities in the time frame as 2013 and now. What we need to do is, and what I've learned throughout my years, in the past 8 years, in my role working with all the communities to make myself a better and stronger person, is to open up to diverse groups, to work with all ethnicities, work with everyone out there and build the coalitions. And that's why I'm running now. Why I'm running now is to use my experience of the past 7 years to where I was building coalitions throughout the Rockaways, right? Working, you know, post Sandy, you know, you talk about my work at the controller's office, where we held a Build It Back hearing in Mount Carmel Church, you know, where the faith-based community was involved, where we get all inclusion, we get everybody included. Even now during COVID, when Rockaway was in a red zone, how do we come out of it? Not with one group saying, hey, what's the governor doing to us? Why are we becoming, you know, why is he picking on us? No, we have to work together with all the community-based organizations. We have to work together with the faith-based communities. We have to build coalitions. And that's why I'm running. I feel that right now, based on my experience, I'm the best person to help build those coalitions.
So now, when we think about when we think about, right, all the different challenges that we have to deal with right now, okay, and we want to come up with a game plan, right? Because let's be honest, this has been economic ruin. And I think that all of us, and I'm not excluding myself from this either, all of us have the propensity to point fingers and say, well, we're in this position because of this person, or we're in this position because of that person. The idea is, I think, not to dwell on whose fault it is. It's really to fix it. Let's fix what we need to fix and focus on the things so that we can start repairing and building bridges, the bridges that were either torn asunder by past political alliances, whatever. How do you, Pesach, as the person who can potentially win this election, how do you propose to rebuild and really get Rockaway back, not just back to work, but, and not just surviving, but also thriving? What is your plan to get that, to get that thing moving again?
So that's a very interesting question. I think the same thing is based on my history and based on, the joining coalitions and creating the coalitions, the way to do it. Take a look back, right? We reflect back at 2013. 2013, where it was myself and Donovan, right? I lost by 79 votes in the end. What did we do? It was immediately follow Sandy. We needed to rebuild communities. What did we do? We went to go work for the council member to make sure that all our communities, to make sure that we're able to get our communities back to the strength that we need. And I think that's what we need in a leader that says, you know what? It doesn't make a difference who's running, at me, who's running against me. It's doing what's right for the betterment of the community. And again, it's you go back to the red zone, you go back to food insecurity. How do we do it? It's not about creating one organization stronger, another organization stronger. It's about working with everybody that's out here and making sure that we all have the resources that we need to move forward. And just to go on that for a second, that's what I feel is the job of a council member. The job of a council member is to connect the dots, to make sure that the proper resources are connected to the proper organizations and the proper stakeholders and the proper houses of worships in the community to allow us all to thrive.
I also think that one of the mistakes that a lot of different candidates have made of late, especially with citywide elections. I saw it in the Queens DA race. We would talk to certain candidates and we would say, that we're seeking an endorsement, and we'd say to them, well, what makes you different from the other people that are running? Why should we endorse you? And, some people took that as a challenge in a negative way. And we eventually decided not to for that race specifically, we decided not to endorse in that race, even though we had a really good relationship with a couple of the people that were running. And I felt that if you couldn't answer that question, especially when you were challenged, then what's going to happen when you eventually get the role and you're challenged? So in this case, the Wave is considering endorsing a candidate this time around, especially in a special election, because we happen to feel as an editorial board that it's a very critical, because basically whoever wins this race, in our opinion, is going to have a head start in the primary in June. So I'll put it to you, Pesach. Why should the Wave consider endorsing you, and how and what makes you different from the other people that are running for this office?
So, and I appreciate that question. I'm not on here, and I didn't go onto this, onto the podcast or onto the Wave to ask for an endorsement. Again, we never say no to an endorsement. If that's something you'd like to give, we'll be more than happy to accept. But we're on here to create a voice. to make sure that everybody has a voice. The Rockaway has been the dumping ground far too long for the city's administration. People in one end of the Rockaways don't know what's happening to the other end of what's happening the other end of the Rockaways. What's happening in Edgemere, people think doesn't affect the people that's happening down the block. So the community meetings and everything that's been happening has been focusing on just those specific communities. It's time to bring all our communities together. It's time to work and resolve all our issues, and it's time to work, resolve, and build a better Rockaways by including all our voices.
So let's say, for instance, there comes up an issue that a political party, the majority political party in the city council is Democrat. So let's say the Democrats come up with an issue that could hurt Rockaway, and they come to you and they say, Pesach, I know that this is your district, but we want to do A, B, and C, and you know that your constituents do not want it, or you've listened, because I know that you're somebody that listens. I've had conversations with you about certain issues. How are you as a city councilman going to deal with that kind of pressure from the party when it directly affects your constituents?
So again, the question, I would say it's a very, very pointed question, and working with, and I've been around the district, and I think that I've known, the people in the district, and I've worked, again, with every single group in the district. And the work that I'm doing is the work for the people. I'm not focusing on any specific party. I'm not working for any any affiliations. And again, you asked me a minute ago about the endorsement. I'm not here. That wasn't, the purpose of going on this call. The purpose of going on this call is to explain to the community that I'm out there working for them. The way to do it is to bring all their voices together. And yes, there are many civics along the Rockaways, and you could bring an issue, regarding the illegal fireworks. You could bring an issue, right? How did you send a message to the mayor's office regarding illegal fireworks? It's getting someone from every civic organization and from every state, and someone from every different community that's along the Rockaways to sign on to a letter to say that we need change. And that would be the way to do it. What we need to do is we need to include all our voices. My job is to fight for the constituents and to fight for the people of Rockaways. It's not to fight for a political party.
So let's talk about a mutual friend. Our mutual friend in Phil Goldfeder, a former assemblyman. Now, Phil used to always talk about, because you brought it up a little bit in the beginning of this interview, talking about how one half of the peninsula doesn't always know what the other half of the peninsula is going through or thinking about or needs. And, he used to say, don't play the compare game, because what's good for one side of the peninsula was always good for the other side, because if one side gets it, then now the other side, regardless of which side we're talking about, is now going to want what the other side got. And there's now a precedent for one side of the peninsula getting something, right? So, Phil used to talk about that all the time. And I guess when he first talked about it, I thought it was kind of like a political thing that he was trying to show like that he was this, wonderful guy that, wanted everybody to focus on one thing. But as I got to know Phil, I got to experience that he actually really believed it. And I think that you're talking about the same thing. And to that end, as the person who wins this race, if you win this race, do you pledge to work with the other city council person that will be in District 32? Because that's going to be an election as well in November. Is that something that you pledge to do, that you will work together in a bipartisan way if it happens to be someone from a different party? Will you work with that person to make sure that Rockaway is united?
So Phil, as you mentioned, is a great friend of mine. I've known him from when he was in CAU in Mike Bloomberg's office, working as Queensborough director for the mayor's community affairs unit, where I had the opportunity to work together with him in my role as here in the community, working on the adverse effects and working on the fires. I believe that there was, something posted in 2012 in the wave regarding a fire that we both worked on together out here in the Rockaways. And I had an opportunity really to build relationships. And he was a great mentor to me. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build bridges. And I think what we need to do is we need to work with everybody. I think I have a great relationship based on my work in the controller's office, based on my work out here in the Rockaways, in working not only with whoever will be the council member, working with who is the council member now, working with our state senators, that are here, both Senator Adabo and Senator Sanders. Once we're in office, we have to be able, and the assembly and the current assembly member, and all our community leaders. We need to make sure all our voices are included. And what we need to do is we need to build that bridge. And yes, I do pledge to work with whoever is elected, and I pledge to work hand in hand with our district leaders, with our elected officials, but the priority needs to be the needs of our residents. And as you know, I'm here even should I not win. I'm not going anywhere. I've been here since 2000. This is what I've done. I was here before I ran. I was here after I worked for city government, before I worked for city government, after I worked for city government for the past, 2.5 years. This is my home, and I'm looking for the best for the district.
Thank you for giving me a good segue to the next question. If you had to pick the top 3 issues that your district is facing, pick 3, because I'm sure there's 10, I'm sure there's 15, especially post-COVID, well, hopefully post-COVID. But certainly COVID has created a whole bunch of more challenges, especially for the Rockaway side of the district. What do you think, in your words, do you feel are the top 3 issues for your district?
So it's very hard to pick, as you mentioned, 3 top issues, as COVID is still the paramount issue that's really affecting us all. But putting that aside for a second, I think the one thing that we need to focus on is we need to make, and again, very Rockaway centric, and especially District 31, we have to go work together and create resilient communities. And that's to make sure that our beach runs are protected, our land are protected. There are still homes. I'm walking through Edgemere, I'm walking through the Auburn community down to Beach 67th Street, and people are still telling me that they're still having build-it-back issues, that they recently had to put another $40,000 into their home because the items that Build-It-Back put it in there isn't work. We need to make sure that we have resilient communities. We have to make sure that we don't have to leave the peninsula to go to our healthcare. We have to make sure that our transportation is here. We have to make sure that we are self-reliant. That would be my number 1 concern. The second concern is, I would say, we have a public safety issue. We have to make sure that we are getting the services that we need out here in the Rockaways, and we have to make sure that we are maintaining the quality of life that we strived so hard over the past years to reach up to. And the third thing, just to go right on it, is our business economy. We have to create more jobs. We need to create more businesses, and we need to create an influx. We need to create a foundation of working together. There's hardly any jobs out here on the peninsula. And that would be to put in, a business incubator, and to create a mentoring program where our young and our millennials that want to go start a business or have a business on the side, where they know the ins and the outs on how to work that business. Working with our banks, working with our financial institutions, our faith-based community, to create that mentorship program that allows them to build and create the economic stability that they so deserve.
So as we start really ramping up at this point, there's only really a couple of weeks left until the special election, which of course is February 23rd, Tuesday, February 23rd. What is it, if you had to pick a central message for your campaign, if you were sitting in someone's, socially distancing, of course, if you were sitting in someone's living room right now, and, let's say it's me and I'm sitting down, I'm like, Pesach, what's the theme of your campaign? What do you want people to know most about you and why they should vote for you?
So the motto, as you said earlier, that should become the bumper sticker of that there's no more choices without our voices. What we need to do is we need to create an inclusionary process with everything that happens out here in Rockaways and the way to move forward, right? That's the way that we need to find ways to create and to bridge communities and organizations to come together. It's not one community, one organization that's focusing on the youth or that's focusing on food insecurity versus the other one. No, you know what? There's times, and again, I could give you, something that happened this past week. There was one of these, an organization out here that was focusing on food insecurity, and they got an extra batch. They got something extra delivered. And we were able to take those extra that they received, that they were not able to give out, and distribute it to the other organizations that were lacking. And that would be the goal. The goal is, as a council member, to create their resources. We've built over the past, 20 years that we're out in here, we've built a diverse group in the past. And I'm looking to do the same. I'm looking to build a diverse coalition of supporters of that and of community stakeholders that could really work and could really make that difference and want to make that difference in every issue moving forward.
Well, look, Pesach, thank you so much for making the time today to talk with us, and certainly good luck with your campaign. And we'll be hopefully talking down the road with you on more issues as these things come up. You're always welcome on the show, and certainly always looking forward to seeing you in and around Rockaway.
Thank you, and I appreciate being on here, and appreciate, the Wave has always been an integral part of the Rockaways, and, the years that you mentioned, before when you were in existence, the Wave has always been and it's a great conduit for you. You talk about how to get out the message to the entire Rockaways. Wave is and the forefront of messaging.
Thanks again for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you again.